This Tuesday, December 17, 2024, meeting of the Lake Oswego City Council is now called to order. Ms. Linda, will you please call the roll?
Mayor Buck is excused this evening. Council President Mboop?
Here.
Councilor Raff is excused. Councilor Corrigan? Here. Afghan?
Here.
Wendland?
Here.
And Burdick?
Here.
Will you now please stand, remove your hats, and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance? Our first item on the agenda is the annual report from the Lake Oswego Chamber of Commerce. Joining us is Ms. Jessica Numalku, Community Development Director, to introduce Ms. Liz Hartman, along with Matt Evans from the Lake Oswego Chamber of Commerce. Welcome to you all.
I think I'm on. There we are. Thank you, and good afternoon, Council. I will just have Jessica Numanalu, Community Development Director. I just have a brief introduction before the Chamber talks about all the great work that they've done over the past year. And I just wanted to remind the Council, I'm sure you're aware that in 2022, you adopted the Economic Development Strategy and Resource Plan. And this plan specifically the goal is to support business investment and job creation in the city. And there's a number of strategies in the plan, most of which are to be carried out by the council because, as you know, we don't have an economic development staff here at the city. However, there are a few strategies that are to be carried out by staff, which we are either in the process or will be in the process of undertaking, including an update to our urban renewal districts, looking at the Foothills Framework Plan, which our redevelopment director, Sid Sin, is currently working on. We have the comprehensive review of the development code that's coming up in mid-2025. That has sort of a dual purpose, both in looking at our housing, implementing our housing production strategy and looking at barriers to housing development, but also looking at it from an economic development lens as well, any sort of barriers to businesses. So we'll be looking at both of those as part of that comprehensive review of the development code. We have been contracting with the Chamber. We have a 3-year pilot program. We're in the second year of that program. We just completed the second year of that program, I should say. And the Chamber has been doing a lot of work around business information collection and dissemination, business education and training, and then also business outreach and engagement, which they're going to talk about more this afternoon in their presentation. As I mentioned, we're at the end of the second year, so now we're entering the third year of this pilot program. I know the council is considering restructuring the business license fee for longer-term funding for this contract. If the council decides to extend the contract beyond the 3-year pilot program, that will be an opportunity for us to revisit the economic development plan and refine it and maybe set some new goals, and depending on the budget, maybe accomplish more with the Chamber. So with that, I would love to pass it over and introduce Liz Hartman, who's the Executive Director of the Chamber, as well as Matt Evans, who's the Economic and Business Research Analyst for the Chamber.
Thank you, Jessica. Good afternoon, Council President Mboop and members of the Council. My name is Matt Evans, and I'm here today representing the Lake Oswego Chamber of Commerce, its Board of Directors, and its more than 460 business members. I'm reporting today on the completion of the second year of our 3-year pilot project focused on areas of economic development. The agreement between the city and the Chamber asks us to focus on 3 areas: business information collection and dissemination, business training and education, and business outreach and engagement. Our complete annual report is in your packets. I'd like to briefly touch on each of these areas to show some of the ways we are fulfilling that agreement and how it is helping to build a stronger, more resilient business community for Lake Oswego. In addition, I want to point out a few items the Chamber believes are important about our current and our future business community and encourage you to consider these in the year to come. I'm going to lead off with a discussion of our 2024 business survey. Our agreement with the city asks us to accomplish this every 2 years. Although the number of responses we received was below what we hoped, and are therefore not statistically significant perhaps, I can tell you that the number of positive responses we received with regard to the city's work on behalf of Lake Oswego businesses was surprising. Why surprising? I've had quite a bit of experience in both the customer service and public policy arenas, and I've found most of the feedback you get is usually negative. People rarely call you up to tell you what a great job they think you're doing. Perhaps you've experienced this as well. A summary of our findings is included in your packet, and all of the responses are available to you if you would like them. 59% of respondents felt the business climate in Lake Oswego was good or very good. 59% also said their interactions with the city were always or frequently positive. On the other hand, only about 1/3 found the city's permitting process very easy or somewhat easy to navigate. With the city set to review its codes next year, this can provide an area perhaps of focus. City employees were frequently described as friendly and eager to help, although there were instances where different answers to the same question could be had from different city employees. One thing I do want to draw your attention to, which has been a topic of discussion between the Chamber and the city over the last 2 years, is the sign code. Complaints about signage, specifically the complete prohibition on A-frame signs, were the #1 concern expressed in our survey. More than 40% of those who had a concern about permits cited signage. The Chamber understands the aesthetic reasoning behind this code choice, but a broad range of businesses firmly believe it is preventing them from being more successful, and the policy deserves a fresh look as part of your code review. The Chamber is willing to schedule meetings to provide more feedback from a wider variety of A-frame sign advocates and to help educate them about the sign code. The Chamber continued to work closely this year with the city on a program welcoming new businesses to Lake Oswego. Business growth this past year has been robust. Through the end of November, about 250 businesses were newly registered in the city. To be sure, some of these were already established elsewhere, but this year, they chose to start doing business in Lake Oswego. We also understand this does not represent 100% of the businesses locating here, which is something I'll talk about a little bit shortly. The State of Oregon Employment Department noted a growth of over 11% in businesses located here during 2023. Now, I should note here that state information tends to run behind real time by 12 to 18 months. They showed at the end of 2023 a total of 3,500 businesses located in Lake Oswego. I expect some similar amount of growth when 2024 totals are tallied about a year from now. Businesses that employ fewer than 50 people are over 97% of all businesses in Lake Oswego. It's clear there's a large gap between total businesses and businesses with a business license. On a monthly basis, the city shares with us the list of new business applicants. The Chamber holds new business meet and greets monthly as well to welcome these new business owners and managers. The city plays a prominent role as Assistant City Manager Megan Phelan or Jessica Numanolu, Director of Community Development Department, or both attend these meetings to provide information about how the city works with and supports business. This gives new businesses a solid information base and someone to call should they have a question about city operations. Megan and Jessica have really done an outstanding job, and we can't thank them enough. We noticed in late 2023 that about half the new businesses were opening out in the Boones Ferry Cruise Way area, so we began holding about half of our events in that area during 2024. It should be noted that toward the end of 2024, now about 60% of the new business licenses are being issued to businesses in the 97035 zip code. The Chamber also continues to track commercial properties available for lease or sale, and I'm pleased to report the data here also shows a very robust business community. For example, the vacancy rate for office space in downtown is just 3.1%, down from 5.9% 1 year ago. Of course, every silver lining has a touch of gray. What this also means is that a business looking for a location in downtown is likely going to struggle to find one, especially if they need some kind of specialized space. Out in the Boones Ferry Cruise Way area, where it's primarily Class A and B office space, the office vacancy rate is in the mid-20% area. This year saw 2 building sales in the Cruiseway area that drew healthy prices. The area-wide industrial property vacancy rate is 0.4%, essentially fully leased. As we've discussed before, there is almost no opportunity to add industrial property in Lake Oswego, and the changes coming to the foothills area deserve the strategic thought the Council is already giving. The purpose of all this tracking is to be ready when a business calls the Chamber for information on location here. We have been able to respond to requests from donut shops, restaurant chains, art studios, and individuals during the course of this year. Carrie, if you could bring up slide 2, or maybe we can.
Can I click?
Oh, look at that. We have provided some important business training and education events this year, and I'd highlight our April event on human trafficking in response to the incident on Boones Ferry Road. The Chamber brought federal, state, and local law enforcement, along with victim advocates, to discuss how Lake Oswego businesses and residents could recognize the societal scourge, learn how to report it, and help stamp it out. The Chamber partnered with Buckley Law and Baron Liebman for business trainings on the new Corporate Transparency Act, protecting intellectual property, and avoiding business legal pitfalls. We continue to co-sponsor the Cruiseway Economic Forum, which in October welcomed Jake Procino, an economist from the Oregon Employment Department. In your packets are 3 slides as attachment C, which Jake presented that when taken together, to my mind, indicate a coming labor shortage. A wave of retirements, combined with an insufficient number of young people to fill those positions, and the metro area losing population spell concern in the labor market, including for Lake Oswego. I can also say that the #1 complaint of local businesses I hear is finding employees. This also showed up as a concern in our survey. Finally, on our 3rd charge, the Chamber continues to aggressively reach out to all Lake Oswego businesses and search for ways to engage businesses throughout the city. We created 2 new events during 2024 showing our commitment to this ideal: the Oregon Wine Walk in Lake Grove and the Downtown Third Thursdays Art and Shopping Experience. The Oregon Wine Walk, modeled on our very successful annual Downtown LO Wine Walk, but featuring only Oregon wines, drew 400 guests to 20 pouring locations along Boones Ferry Road last May. This event not only drew praise from the business community along Boones Ferry Road as the best thing to happen here in a while, but also allowed us to show off city improvements aimed at making Lake Grove a more pedestrian-friendly business district. We plan an expansion of this event next year, which is scheduled for May 10th, 2025, and we hope to see you all there. The relatively new Third Thursday events feature 30 downtown businesses who agree to be featured from 4 to 6 p.m. to accommodate guests and have something special in the way of promotions, partnering with wineries or artists, and to take other measures to show off their products and services. We would like to be able to offer this opportunity to other business districts as we learn what can make them a success. Please try to attend this week on Thursday or at one of our more than 30 locations. Downtown businesses are reporting a slowdown of traffic this season, and we will be working with them to start tracking these seasonal and off-season comparisons. We also continue to hold monthly Lake Grove Business Committee meetings at the Babaca Hen Cafe, With the future rebuilding of Lake Grove Elementary, these meetings have become very timely and have allowed local businesses to learn more and to have important discussions about the vibrancy of Boones Ferry Road and the impact on businesses. City personnel always bring great information on issues of interest to Lake Grove businesses. The most recent was the stormwater code changes and the impact of the monthly farmers market in that area. There is more detailed information in our annual report. The Chamber greatly appreciates the opportunity to build a good working relationship with the city. We believe that our relationship is helping to create the kind of welcoming, vibrant business community that benefits everyone. Our Chamber team works closely together, and I want to give our CEO, Liz Hartman, a chance to paint a picture of how we can help our local businesses start a conversation on recommendations for 2025. Liz?
Come on. Thank you, Matt. Over the past 2 years, Lake Oswego has been included in Travel Oregon, the publication that is marketed to people in state and out of state. The ad was funded through the Business Recovery Center, and that funding ended in June 2024, so we've been in there 2 years in a row. The Chamber would strongly recommend continuing a Lake Oswego ad to keep our local shopping, recreation, and dining on top of mind for visitors. The ad cost runs from $3,700 for a half page or $8,200 for a whole page. So this is a major commitment, but this is a publication that people look at when they are looking for different places in the state to visit. The Chamber does not have the funding to continue this awareness ad. And the Chamber is hearing more from businesses that this has been a tougher year. And I worked with them through COVID, so I believe what they're saying. The Chamber needs to gather more data this year on business receipts if businesses can share their annual comparisons. And we will be proposing an ongoing city marketing study on what and how the city and Chamber can best market Lake Oswego locally and regionally to keep Lake Oswego top of mind for shopping, dining, and recreation, and keep the area vibrant for residents. This year, the Chamber responded to the downtown area's request for more visibility for slower shopping times, which are generally in the winter, through a third Thursday program, which we started before the winter. Now, I've not been able to get sponsors while we're building this track record of increasing downtown activity. And our businesses aren't ready to add the expense of promoting the program, but we have had good support from Lakeview Village and Wisers. We're at a point where we need to continue the project a few more months to get people in the habit of coming downtown and to be able to find sponsors. We believe this can become an ongoing downtown program with the potential to expand to other parts of the city, and we believe it's time to reactivate a quarterly downtown business group for ongoing feedback on downtown vitality because we may be seeing some changes in shopping habits.
Again, thank you for the opportunity to work with all businesses in Lake Oswego. We'd be happy to take any questions you may have.
Folks, do you have questions? Thank you. Councilor Edlin.
Less a question, more a comment. I've said this before. This year, as the liaison to the Chamber, the forward momentum of our business community and the Chamber in Lake Oswego has taken a 180-degree turn for the positive in the 5 years. Really, it's been about 5 years. And I really feel like the forward momentum that they're gaining, part of that was some help from the city. Part of it was just us all working together. And the business community needs us to continue with the participation and the support because I do think that there's going to be some trends where there's going to be some challenging retail shifts in our businesses, and we need to be supportive of that and be on top of getting information and statistics so we have something in front of us to help make decisions. And I don't want to really lose the forward momentum, and I just strongly encourage us to continue with the support that we have for the Chamber and continue to having a great and wonderful partnership with the city and the business community. So That's just my comments.
Thank you. Councilor Verdict?
I just want to say I concur with my colleague, and I just also want to thank the chamber for all of your hard work and really helping to, in many ways, lead this charge and be kind of the voice of the businesses and coming to us and sharing where the concerns are so that we can, again, look at our codes and do different things and find ways that we can really constructively support that makes a difference. So thank you very much for everything you're doing.
Thank you, and I would also say, Councilor Burdick, President Mboop, that we really value your participation, Councilor Wendland's participation on our board. We love it when a council member or the mayor can attend a ribbon cutting or something like that. It really shows the council's willingness to be connected to the business community, and I can tell you, the business owners appreciate that. They want to, most people want to be heard, and that's an opportunity to show that you care about what they think.
Thank you so much. I think you're doing a wonderful work in Lake Oswego. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah. Next on the agenda is public comment. If you are here to provide public comment, please fill out a white form. Request to provide comment card on the table in the back and give to Ms. Linda. I'll call you forward to the presentation table when it's your turn. As time allows, please speak into the microphone, state your first and last name, and you'll have up to 3 minutes. And share your thought with the council on items not on the agenda or that don't require a public hearing. Keep in mind that the timer lights on the presentation table will indicate how much time you have remaining, and when your time is up, it will blink red. As a reminder, please keep within the 3-minute times. Thank you. At 3 minutes, I will cut your mic. Thank you. So we have one public comment, Ms. Courtney Clements. Please, yeah.
Talk fast. This one, okay. Council President Mboop and members of the council, thank you so much for the opportunity to speak with you this afternoon.
Thank you.
Can you hear me? Okay.
Yes.
Several weeks ago, I had an encounter with a member of our community whom I know, who was clearly experiencing a mental health crisis. Though I was woefully unprepared for this encounter, I did manage to resolve it somewhat with help of that person's family. After it ended, it was recommended to me that in a similar situation in the future, I should consider contacting the police. It didn't occur to me during this encounter to do that. But as I reflected on that suggestion, I decided to go visit the police department the next day and to seek some advice. And I connected with Amber Hambrick, your behavioral health specialist. She was incredibly helpful. She explained to me what law enforcement can and can't do in such a situation, her role within the department, the relation between the police department and Clackamas County Mental Health Services. She gave me a list of resources, which is now on my refrigerator, and if you don't have one on your fridge, I suggest you get one. I was so impressed with her compassion and her willingness to give me the time and explain to me all of these issues. And I'm so grateful that I live in a community where her position exists. And I was pleased to read recently in the Ella Review that you're hiring a behavioral health case manager to work with her. So this area is not, I know nothing about mental health issues, so I don't come to you with any specific suggestions. I really just come to thank you for funding Amber's position and that of her new colleague, although no, that's a grant, and to ask that you keep this issue a priority in our community. It will be better for it. Thank you for your time.
Thank you so much, Ms. Clements. These are things we want to hear sometime. Councilor Wendland, don't we have a beautiful city here? Yeah. Yes, yes. So consent agenda, next on the agenda, so is a consent agenda, which includes item 6.1, enacting ordinance 2949 and adopting findings for LU 240025. Item 6.2, enacting ordinance 2953 and adopting finding for LU 24-0030. Item 6.3, adopting resolution 24-30. Item 6.4, adopting resolution 24-44. Item 6.5, approving the declaration of the vote from the 2024 general election. And item 6.6, approval of meeting minutes from October 15th and November 5th. Is there a motion to adopt the consent agenda?
I move to adopt this consent agenda.
Mr. Mayor, excuse me, Mr. President, could you hold on just one moment? I want to check the charter. I'm subbing.
The mayor read them at the last meeting.
Adoption. As you know, I'm filling in, so let me just check that for a moment.
I just want to ask another question on if we don't approve the declaration of the vote, does that mean that you can't be reelected?
Troublemaker.
Because we have 3 here that could make a difference in our lives that. Just kidding.
So those who are not here. Okay, so. We can exclude some.
No, apparently not. So you may proceed with your call. Thank you. And I apologize to council.
So we don't need to read it? No, okay. Thank you, sir. So motion made by Councilor Verdict. Is there a second? I'll second. Motion seconded by Councilor, all right, Corrigan. So all those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? So motion passed 5-0. Good. Yeah. Oh, folks. Thank you, folks. Our first item now on council business is the 2026-2030 Pavement Management Program. Here to give us that update is Mr. Stephen Broders, Director of Special Project. Welcome, Mr. Broders.
Hey everyone, it's great to be back in front of you here today to present our upcoming pavement management program for the next 5 years. So the agenda here today, I will try to keep it brief, but for the first few minutes, give I'll call it a reintroduction to pavement management. This is a topic you've seen maybe a few times by now, but I'll reintroduce some of the key topics again. I'll then go on to talk about the previous pavement management program that took place between 2018 and 2022. The program that we're looking to implement here in the near future is going to replicate the success that we had during that span. I want to spend a few minutes to talk about what we've been up to over the last few years as far as paving, so this 3-year span between the programs. And then finally, I'll talk about the upcoming program itself. So real quick, to recap a few of the critical concepts in pavement management. A pavement sees incredible degradation towards the end of its life. It's not a linear depreciation. We sometimes refer to it as a cliff. So you pave a road and restore that road to essentially a perfect condition, and it will stay fairly great for quite a while until it starts to lose that condition, and eventually you'll start to approach this cliff that we talk about as seen on this graph here. So general in this perhaps oversimplifying, but a general concept of pavement management is to do more small-scale solutions sooner rather than to focus your resources on addressing pavements that have already failed. It's essentially using what's called a worst first approach. So focusing on the failed pavement is bailing out a sinking ship, and it's taking on water faster than you can bail it out. So this strategy here of implementing preventative maintenance solutions, ones that address pavements that are in a relatively decent condition, balancing that with pavements that have failed, because we can't just ignore those pavements altogether, of course. Having a balanced approach is the best way to efficiently manage a pavement network. So here at the City of Lake Oswego, we have several tools for preventative maintenance. I'll start in the lower left. A preventative maintenance approach commonly consists of these items. So we would start with filling in some spot points of failure. If the road is in a mostly good condition, but there's a couple of isolated points of failure, we can go in and do spot repairs. We'd follow that up with crack sealing. So the enemy to, just like the enemy to a home foundation is water intrusion, the enemy to a road foundation is water intrusion as well. So we will seal those cracks to prevent water from getting into the pavement substructure through those cracks. And then we'll follow up the crack sealing with most of the time a slurry seal. So that's that picture shown in the top left. Looks a lot like we're painting the road. It's a very thin, liquidy mixture that helps really improve the impermeability of the pavement to prevent that water intrusion and to, going back to the graph, keep that line up towards a strong condition. Alternative to preventative maintenance is rehabilitation, and there's a handful of methods, and moving from left to right on this graph goes from moderately expensive, more expensive than the preventative maintenance I just talked about. But as you move to the right of this graphic, it's extremely expensive. So the least expensive, least impactful technique on road rehabilitation is to simply overlay the existing pavement with a thin lift of new asphalt. That's a great technique when applicable. It's got some constraints, but it is a great tool to have. And then moving to the right on this list, we can remove a thin layer off the top of the pavement and replace it in kind. That's a great tool as well. Sometimes we go a little bit deeper when it calls for. Sometimes we will remove essentially all of the pavement down to the base and repave the entire thing. It's very expensive, but sometimes that's what is required to properly address the deficiencies of that particular road. Okay, so with my crash course in pavement management behind us, I want to recap what we did in the previous program. So this was between the years 2018, 2022. So over that five-year program rather, we accomplished a lot of things. So these colors that you see on the map, first of all, just the sheer volume of roads that we covered in this span is quite incredible. I mean, I want to say it's almost like a quarter of the road network in the city was addressed during this time. In purple here are the roads that were rehabilitated. So either an overlay or some sort of grind and inlay. Shown in green are the roads that were slurry sealed. And then in yellow and blue are our capital improvement projects. So the projects that not only the roads were rehabilitated, also included some other major components that could be sidewalks, stormwater systems, et cetera. And so I'll do a bit of a highlight reel of some of the major accomplishments there. So big thing was a project goal was to improve the pavement condition index, or the PCI, from a 68. Our goal was actually to improve it less than this, but we were able to get all the way up to a 75, which we were quite proud of. As a recap, Pavement Condition Index is an objective industry standard scoring system that ranges from 0 to 100. 100 is brand new pavement. 0 obviously is pavement that has failed. And 68 reflects an overall average of the network, and we're able to move that average to a 75. And I'll get into a little bit more details about PCI trends within the city and where we'd like to go. So going on to more specific accomplishments of the program, 58 lane miles paved, so that the example picture shown here is on Wembley Park. This road also included, as you can see, a lot of our paving efforts that include existing curb ramps. Those were brought into compliance at that same time. This is another example in first edition. In the year 2020, we basically repaved that entire neighborhood, which was quite an accomplishment considering all of the uncertainties of the time and whether or not we'd even be allowed to continue with that project. We also have, during that 5-year span, we slurry sealed 63 lane miles. So this is an example of Nansen Summit, which was tricky in regards to logistics. And I'll just give a thank you to the tens of thousands of people that were patient with us during this effort. It's quite impactful on local traffic, so thank you to the citizens out there. And then, as I mentioned a little bit earlier, Department of Justice requires that when we pave a road, if there are curb ramps within those paving limits, that we bring them into current compliance with the Americans with Disabilities Act. So while this was a paving program, we actually were able to bring almost 300 curb ramps into compliance. To give you some relative perspective, that's about 15% of the city's overall curb ramp network. So 15% were brought into compliance with a paving project, which is kind of funny. And then at the same time, we kind of leaning on the dig once policy, we, in the limits of where we're paving, we also replaced 280 storm catch basins. So this is an example of one of those. This is also on Wembley Road, where we have existing catch basin was either undersized, in poor structural condition, or some other deficiency. If it was perfectly fine, we didn't replace it. But anytime we came across a catch basin that could use some assistance, also a lot of these were retrofit with a stormwater quality component to it, which includes having a sump, so basically lowering the bottom a couple feet below the actual flow line for water quality. So a lot of those structures were also included in that program. Again, almost 300 of those. As far as the financial aspects of the program goes, we were able to pay for this with a combination of street funds, municipal bonds, as well as a transfer from the general fund, combination of those three sources. And as far as pavement condition goes, this graph kind of speaks to this century to date, at least, on where pavement condition was in the city, and then what the type of investment that we initiated with that program, what that can yield. After that program was done, we moved on to a smaller effort. We had smaller budget equals less paving. So over the last 3 years combined, we're looking at about a total of $3 million spent on paving. You saw in the program, we were just shy of 40 million over that 5 to 6 year span. So quite a drop in level investment. But that doesn't mean we weren't able to accomplish anything. So we have patched significant spot failures. So we found some areas of road failure that while we weren't able to pave the full length of the corridor, we were able to address some areas that presented either life safety issue if those spot failures were located at, say, a crosswalk, or we were able to address areas that were perhaps contributing to vehicle damage or things like that. We were also able to stretch those dollars by completing designed segments that were cut from the program due to one reason or another. Maybe it was the timing didn't work out, or perhaps it was a budgetary constraint. But we had some of these segments that were designed to a certain point, but were eventually cut. So we were able to take those and just move those to final design at a very cost-effective way. So what did that scope look like? Here's a map that shows where we went over the last 2 years and where we also plan to go next summer, which will be the final year before we start the new program. So like I said, you see some dots up here that reflects some of the spot failures that we addressed, and then some of the long line paving efforts include Carmen Drive as well as First Street here downtown. So just to show a couple of examples from the last few years, this was First Street, which was repaved this past summer. Many thanks to the businesses for collaborating with us on what would be the least impactful timing to this paving effort. But you can see some of the conditions that this road was in before construction, and some are active construction shots. And then here's the new pavement after the job was complete. B Avenue was a little bit different in that we had really isolated failure that was just in the north lane, so it would be the westbound lane. And we didn't really have the funds to repave the full width of this road, but the full width of this road really didn't need to be repaved. The failures were really isolated to that one lane. So you can see in these pictures, these before and after pictures, we addressed the failures in that lane and maintained the existing good pavement everywhere else. Carmen Drive is one of the few full width pavings that we've done over the last few years. And you can see in this image here what that pavement was looking like before, as well as the condition it was in afterwards. And similar to some of the other projects, you can see in this before and after, we addressed the catch basin as well as the ADA curb ramp within the paving limits. So that's what we've been up to the last, let's see, 7 or 8 years as far as paving goes, and now it's on to where do we want to head. So we want to replicate all the success we had with that program from 2018 through 2022 over the upcoming 5 years. That would include a PCI, Pavement Condition Index report, so an assessment of all the roads in the city. We do that on a 3-year basis, so including this in the program in years 2025 and 2028 maintains that 3-year cycle, so it keeps us on that same consistent frequency. This program I bring to you today is a little ambiguous as far as what the exact scope is, and is also what the exact budget we intend to be. We need to work on those things, as some of the first few tasks of the program would be to perform that pavement condition assessment, and then develop a paving plan over the next 5 years that would correspond to both what the pavement condition is as well as our available funding. We're working on the capital improvement plan that would be adopted June, July of next year. We're working on that actively, so we don't have final numbers on that. More will come over the next few months as far as what we're proposing to do there. But an early peek into that is I'm expecting somewhere around $20 million for this 5-year program. Okay. So with all of that said, the recommendation is to move to authorize the city manager to sign a professional services contract with Consor North America in the amount of $379,000 for program management services for this program. And I do want to say that this amount is specifically for the early task of the program. What we intend to do is to come back to council probably annually to reflect on what we've done, but also get council approval on amending this contract to do the next year of the program. So this would intended to be most likely a annual recurrence of coming back here, giving an overview of the paving program and approval for next year. With that, I'll take any questions you may have.
Any questions?
Wondering if you can tell us what PCI number correlates to the cliff that you showed us in the pavement, trying to maintain the good quality of the pavement. Can you estimate what that would be?
Yeah. Yeah, that's a great question. So we typically will slurry seal streets anywhere above about a 50. 50 is getting close to the point where it's beyond repair. And it's not an exact science. If something were close to that cliff, it's possible that we could do more patch repairs in order, and then crack sealing and then slurry it. It's possible, but there's that gray zone there where you're approaching that cliff, and I'd say it's probably in the low 50s.
One other question, and that is that in 2018, 2022, staff took care of this in-house and did a great job, obviously. So I'm just kind of concluding that we're not going to do that again because we're short of engineers. Is that the reason why we're going to?
Yeah, so the 2023 through 25 has been performed with the help of a consultant helping us with design, and we have, the role of the consultant has been less than it was during the program and is less than what we project it to be with the upcoming program, but it was not a complete in-house effort. Oh, yes, during that, absolutely,
Okay.
yes.
Yeah, great, thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. Councilor Wendland.
So the contract that is before us is a management contract. This doesn't pay for any pavement. It's just the management of the pavement program. And I'm fully supportive of this. My only question is, you have a $20 million sort of number that they're going to manage. If it's, I don't know where you're getting the 20 million, but you'll get to that later. But my question is, if we're only going to do 10 million or 5 million, or if we do 50 million, will they manage it for the same amount of money, or is this just based on the 20 million of management services?
So, inexact science, but it's not linear in that the more paving we do, the smaller their percent of management fee would theoretically be, if that makes sense. So if we were to do a very limited amount of paving, the design percentage and just the professional services, the percentage of that relative to the paving is going to be fairly high, right? But if the more paving we do, the more we can move that percentage of the overall effort of the percentage of professional services down.
So okay, I understand that, but I'm looking at it, if we haven't secured the funding, why would I want to pay $380,000 to, I mean, it's...
What are they actually getting for 300?
To a certain extent, I understand there's some pretty big variables here, and I totally understand that because of our paving history, but I'm not really comfortable saying, great, let's make a contract for 380 without a plan of what it's going to do and how much we're going to get for that. Because if indeed we only do $1 million of paving, then we're not using money appropriately.
I see your point. So the positive way that we've set the contract up is that of the amount that we're seeking approval on today, some of that is to perform the 2025 pavement assessment. So we would do that whether it was in the program or not. So that's a percent of that effort. The other percent of that effort is coming up with a paving plan. And what we would do with that, assuming in a scenario in which the funding was less than what we anticipate it to be, we'll elongate that plan. So the plan will still be applicable. That work product that they'll come up with will still be extremely informative and extremely helpful. It'll give us a roadmap. And then basically what we'll do is we'll say, okay, if the budget's $20 million, this is the scope of what we're going to do in 5 years. If for whatever reason the budget's higher, we can scale that up. We'll probably add more roads to it. But in the event that we have less budget, what we'll do is we'll keep that plan, but we'll just stretch it out over time.
Oh, okay. Okay.
So,
That's it.
you happy?
I'm okay.
Yeah, good. So, is there a motion to authorize the city manager to sign a professional services contract with Concert North America, Inc., Concert in the amount of $379,621 for program management services for the 2026-2030 pavement management program?
I move to authorize the city manager to sign a professional service contract with Concert North America Incorporated in the amount of $379,621,000 for program management services for the 2026 through 2030 payment management program.
Is there a motion made by Councilor Verdict? Is there a second? Second. Motion seconded by Councilor Corrigan. Is there any discussion? Okay, so all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes 5-0.
Thank you.
Our next item of business is Resolution 24-51, a resolution of the City Council of the City of Lake Oswego adjusting solid waste collection service rates. Here to present and answer any question is Amanda Watson, Sustainability Program Manager, and Travis Comfort, Municipal Contract Administrator with Republic Services. Thank you.
Thank you. Good afternoon, councilors. Thanks for having me back. So we had this item pulled from the consent agenda just to provide a quick update on one topic that came up during the November 19th meeting. But as a reminder, this resolution would adjust the solid waste service rates for the city of Lake Oswego. Republic Services is our hauler. In keeping with council direction from that study session, the rates resolution that you have before you applies the known and measurable cost increases to adjust rates. Those in particular were increases in labor, disposal, and inflation. It also adopts an itemized bulky waste collection rate sheet, so a change from our current rates. It will now be kind of broken out by types of items and size. And it additionally increases up the drive rates to cover the cost of providing the service. The question that I wanted to kind of respond to you all in person about was Councilor Rapp had asked how residents or customers with physical disabilities in Lake Oswego could access that up the drive service where a driver, Republic Services driver, will collect a cart not from the curbside but from up someone's driveway. How residents with disabilities can access that for free. So I spoke with my counterparts, our Republic Services, about that, and the resolution has a clause added that directs Republic to work with the city to establish a process for this. And so while there's not a process currently established, we'll be working together to outline what that is, and when we do have that established, we'll make that available on the city's website so that residents who need to avail themselves of that service for free understand how to do so. So I just wanted to close the loop on that. That was a question that Councilor Rapp had. We also delivered that by email as well, so I know he's not here today, but he got that follow-up. The other thing to flag, I don't think I mentioned this earlier, but just to make clear that these new rates will be effective February 1st, and so we'll be making sure to put out public announcement through, the city channels ahead of time. So it's not a January 1st start date like we've had in previous years, but the rates this year, given that it is now December, will be February 1st start date. And so Travis from Republic and myself are here if you have any additional clarifying questions.
Mr. Comfort, how long you think it will take for those residents to know, since the rate adjustment will start in February? So how long
for residents to know about the upcoming adjustment?
No, residents with disabilities, for their accommodation, how long you think?
Oh, we're hoping to get a framework done with the city very soon, so we should have an update.
February is reasonable.
Yeah, we're hoping Q1 of next year.
Next year?
So in a month or two.
Oh, okay, yeah.
As soon as possible.
We're already at the end of the, but yeah.
Okay, so, thank you.
Move to adopt Resolution 2451.
Second?
So motion made by Councilor Wendland and seconded by Councilor Verdict. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes 5-0. Thank you.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you so much.
Appreciate it.
Thank you. So we have a public hearing. So I would like Mr. Boone, Deputy City Attorney, to tell us.
Thank you, Mr. President.
Yeah.
This is a public hearing to consider Resolution 24-33 to adopt and revise fees and charges and updating the Lake Oswego Master Fees and Charges Schedule. The process will be first a presentation by staff, then testimony can be received from the public. Individuals allowed up to 5 minutes, recognized neighborhood association, homeowner association, government agencies. Not really here, sorry. I'll just, since I don't see anybody in the audience that fits any of those categories, I'll just skip over that and ask if the council has any financial conflicts of interest to declare.
No.
Hearing none, staff proceed with.
Good evening. My name is Sean Cross, Finance Director. I was here a couple weeks ago with a study session about master fees and charges. There were no changes, so I really don't have any presentation tonight, but I'm here to answer questions if you have any.
Thank you, Director Cross. Now we will open the public hearing. Is there anyone here to provide public testimony on this item?
No, there's not.
None. Okay,
Megan?
so,
Are you sure? No.
okay, so, okay, folks, we are, so this public hearing is now closed. Any further question for Director Cross? We will now entertain a motion. Is there a motion to adopt Resolution 2433?
Move to adopt Resolution 24-33.
Motion made by Councilor Afghan, seconded by Councilor Corrigan. Any discussion? Oh. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes 5-0. Is there any information from council? Thank you, Mr. Cross. Is there any information from council?
I'd like to update you on the South Shore Fire Station Task Force. At the last meeting, the task force determined the features that the fire station needs and assigned square foot estimates to those. And then based on that, they evaluated the existing site and 2 others. And they came to the conclusion that the existing site is the superior one and the one that should be used for whatever we need to do.
Yeah, existing, so no move, nowhere. Okay, good. Someone was asking me about that, so. Okay, so anyone else? Okay. So, Martha, do you have anything?
I have to say Happy New Year to all of you. Thank you for a very, very productive 2024. And as a reminder, city offices, the library close at noon on Christmas Eve, closed on Christmas Day, closed at noon on New Year's Eve, closed on New Year's Day. So, of course, police and fire still here all the time. So thank you to them for working on those holidays.
Thank you, City Manager. This meeting of the Lake Oswego City Council is now adjourned. Thank you, everyone. Have a good night.
Well done.
The 402.
That's a record.
You see?
I am
Hey.